Welcome to Fan for Racing Radio. I'm Fan for Racing Sharon, and joining me is Jay Huseman, and we are here now for our Bristol preview for the NASCAR Cup Series. So this is the big one for the Cup Series because 4 drivers are going to be eliminated, Jay.
Yeah, it's Bristol. It's the cutoff race. It's for the championship to move on. So, yeah, I don't know that you can get any more intensity packed into Bristol. Good news on the Cup side. There's 39 drivers and teams signed up for 40 spots, so everybody will make the race. We have your now open teams, Noah Gragson in the number 4. The 23 is Bubba Wallace. Austin Hill in the number 33 for Richard Childress Racing. That's a different one this weekend. Then you got the number 34, Todd Gillen, the 35, Riley Herbst, 38, Zane Smith, the 45 of Tyler Reddick. Chad Fincham is in the number 66, and Corey Heim in an additional 2311, number 67. So that'll be interesting.
That certainly will be, but everybody's going to make the race, so that's always good news.
It is, right. And it's a competitive field with that.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the Bass Pro Shops night race at Bristol Motor Speedway. Again, it is a 0.533 mile concrete oval, and the race is going to be a Saturday night under the lights, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Saturday, September the 13th. Now, pre-race coverage starts at 7 p.m. on USA, PRN, and Sirius XM NASCAR Radio Channel 90. The distance, 266.5 miles, over 500 laps. Stage 1 ends on lap 125. Stage 2 on lap 250, which is another 125 laps. And then the final stage is going to be 250 laps, ending on lap 500. Now, how do you watch this weekend? Well, it starts on Friday with the practice and Busch Light pole qualifying on True TV, PRN, and Sirius XM starting at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Then Saturday, of course, is the race on USA, pre-race coverage at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then the actual race starts at 7:30 p.m. But we've been at Bristol a long time here in the Cup Series as well.
Well, and Sharon, you got me. I said, I don't know if you could pack any more intensity, something you said that I hadn't highlighted, and I think does bring the intensity, it being a night race. I think that does amp it up just that little bit more. So you got me on that one. Now, this weekend does mark the 127th running of a NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol Motor Speedway, and that's not including the 3 races held on the track's dirt surface from 2021 to 2023. I don't know why they wouldn't count those, but yeah, they don't.
Okay. Well, it is the 6th time that Bristol has hosted a playoff race, each race being the elimination race for the round of 16. So Bristol seems to be on a pretty secure spot there.
Yeah, it kind of found its home and niche there in the schedule, but we know that could change too, so we'll have to watch that. 2 drivers to certainly watch this weekend, Denny Hamlin with 3 and Kyle Larson with 3. They've combined to win 6 of the last 9 Bristol races, including each of the last 4 races, with each winning twice.
And keep in mind that Denny Hamlin has won 4 times at Bristol, and 3 of his 4 wins came in the last 9 races.
On the flip side, Kyle Larson has led 462 of the 500 laps at Bristol last September. That was the most ever by a Hendrick Motorsports driver in a Cup race. I remember that.
Kyle Larson also won the last 2 races at Bristol after sweeping both stages in each and leading 87% of the laps, 873 of 1,000. So his stats are pretty strong at Bristol.
Well, and he kind of needs a little bit of mojo. Not that he's gone horribly bad, but certainly hasn't been as strong here this latter part of the season. So good track for him, especially when he's leading. Kyle Larson led 873 laps in the last 2 Bristol races, and that's the most over a 2-race spread on the short track since 1972, when Bobby Allison did it right there at Bristol as well at 903.
Well, here's some good news for Alex Bowman. He's won the pole for each of the last 2 Bristol races. The last driver to win 3 straight poles there was Rusty Wallace between 1997 and 1998.
Well, and there's another driver you talk about just needing that little boost to get back on track. Certainly it bodes well for Alex Bowman.
Okay.
Now, the spring Bristol race this year had just 4 lead changes. That was the fewest for a Bristol race since August of 2008. But I know they got a new tire compound, so we'll see how that affects things.
Yes, indeed. I hope it gives us some good racing. Now, last April's Bristol race featured only 3 cautions, the fewest at Bristol since August of 1982. That's 81 races in between.
Now, no driver failed to finish due to an accident in 2 of the last 3 Bristol races. All of the previous 78 races at Bristol, dating back to August of 1983, had at least 1 accident DNF. And that says something, again, about the competitiveness and the cars as well as the drivers, I think.
Yeah, I think it does too. I like it when all the drivers finish the race. It should be like that in a Premier Series. Now, last September's Bristol race had 36 laps of caution. That's the fewest for a race here since April of 1984, when they had 19.
And I mentioned this earlier too. None of the last 17 races at Bristol ended in overtime. The last Bristol race, overtime race, was back in April of 2015. That one doesn't normally lead to overtimes.
All right. Now, a driver swept the stages in each of the last 4 Bristol races. Kyle Larson was the only driver ever at Bristol to sweep both stages and win the race, doing so in each of the last 2 races. So I'd say he's kind of dominant there.
He does indeed. And I think you and Taz are going to have a lot of stats when it comes to Kyle Larson here when you do your Friday
yes.
preview show. All right. Now, there were only 2 caution-free stages in this stage of racing when it comes to Bristol. One of them, again, being this last April.
And the driver leading the most laps won 6 of the last 7 Bristol races.
The final green flag stretch was at least 121 laps in each of the last 4 Bristol races and at least 57 laps in each of the last 7. So, again, we don't see that overtime or end of race shenanigans, I'll use that word, that we see maybe at some other tracks.
All right. Now, the final stage at Bristol in April was caution-free, with the final green flag stretch going 235 laps. That's the second longest in track history. There was one that was longer, and that was back in March of 1980. That one went 291 laps.
And this doesn't bode well for some of the newer drivers, but they can buck the system. But each of the last 23 races at Bristol have been won by a driver with at least 200 Cup Series starts. Again, a kind of a veteran-style track.
Now, Kyle Larson finished top 10 in 11 of his last 12 Bristol starts, including top 5s in all 6 races there with Hendrick Motorsports.
Now we get to at least add a third driver to this discussion. We got 3 drivers that have finished top 10 in the 5 Bristol races in this next-gen car. Kyle Larson we've been talking about, Denny Hamlin we've been talking about, but also now you got to add Christopher Bell.
Now, Hendrick Motorsports drivers led 1,027 of 2,500 laps raced at Bristol in the next-gen car. That represents 41% of the total. Last 2 tracks we've been saying are not Hendrick Motorsports tracks. This one seems to buck that trend for short track.
Most certainly, and 873 of Hendrick Motorsports' 1,027 laps led at Bristol in the next-gen car came in these last 2 races we talked about with Kyle Larson. So he is leading the pack at HMS when it comes to that.
Now, Kyle Larson's 8 Bristol wins ranks 5th all time, but he finished 14th or worst in each of the last 6 races there. So that's kind of a trend that we don't like to see.
Yeah, I think he's one maybe struggling just a little bit with this next-gen car, as we've been talking about. But on the other side, you got Ty Gibbs at 239 laps led at Bristol, or his most led at a track, as he led over 100 laps in 2 of the last 4 races there. We've been talking about him, waiting to see if we can get that breakout win. So
you never know. 6 drivers ended winless streaks of 50-plus races at Bristol, and that's more than any other track in the Cup Series history. So somebody could end their winless streak this weekend.
Well, and that goes right into maybe Kyle Busch. How about that? Now, Ryan Blaney has finished 11th or better in the last 9 short track races, including 2 wins. And Blaney is one that already has momentum, so that's not a good addition for competitors.
Now, 5 drivers have combined won the last 13 short track races. So that would be Denny Hamlin with 4, Ryan Blaney with 3, William Byron and Kyle Larson and Austin Dillon all have 2.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't realize that was Austin Dillon's where his 2 came in. How about that?
That's where they're saying that, yeah.
Now, I said you got to add Christopher Bell to the previous one here. Kind of leans away from that, as Bell doesn't have a top 10 finish in a night race in 2025. There's been 7 races so far after a streak of 9 straight night races with a finish of 6 or better. He lost his grip in the night.
Now, 4 of Eric Jones' 5 top 10 finishes this season have come in night races. So watch Eric Jones this weekend and Legacy Motorsports.
Yeah, I was going to say, and his teammate John Hunter Nemechek, they might play a role in this, as Legacy Motor Club had the best finishing non-playoff driver in both playoff races so far.
St. Louis was Toyota's 200th Cup Series win, and Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch are tied for the most wins with Toyota at 56 each.
And Joe Gibbs Racing is where that has been done, has won the opening 2 races of the playoffs 5 times. How about that?
Yeah, how about it? Now, Denny Hamlin became the 5th oldest driver to win from the pole in Cup Series histories. Now, that's behind Mark Martin, Bill Elliott, Lee Petty, Jeff Bodine, and Cale Yarborough. That's pretty elite company right there.
It is, and I really hadn't put Denny Hamlin as an older driver, or old, if you will. I know he was getting up there. We were talking about retirement and whatnot, but yeah, that kind of caught me off guard. We got another one here. Denny Hamlin is the 3rd oldest driver in Cup Series history to win back-to-back poles, behind Mark Martin in 2009 and then Bill Elliott in 2002.
All right. Now, 6 drivers won from the pole so far this year. That's more than the last 2 seasons combined.
And this is only the 2nd time Kyle Larson finished outside the top 10 in the opening 2 races of the playoffs in his career. And that ranges from 2014 to today. 2024 was the first time. And we mentioned that he needs to get on track. I think Bristol is a good place for him to be right now.
Now, Toyota led 515 of 607 laps in the playoffs so far. So that's pretty impressive.
And Toyota has had 6 of the top 7 finishers at Darlington and 5 of the top 8 at St. Louis. And these are things that you kind of notice when you watch the races, but really when you put the stats together, I did not realize Toyota was thumping them that good and proper.
Yeah, they have been pretty strong. Bubba Wallace's 343 laps led in 2025 are his most in a season. So it's been a little bit of a breakthrough year for Bubba Wallace.
I think so, and I like it. Now, another one that's kind of coming on and maybe a championship favorite at least, yes. Chase Briscoe led 551 laps in the last 12 races. He had led just 617 in his career prior to that, so he has turned it up.
Yes, he has. Now, in the stage era, the largest deficit overcome entering the final race of the round of 16 to move on to the next round is 19 points. And that was in 2023 at Bristol by Bubba Wallace.
Well, there's a couple drivers that need to change that if they're going to get in, either that or pick up the win. But no, in the stage era, let me clarify that. In the stage era, no playoff driver has won the round of 16 finale from below the cut line. So that kind of just threw my hope out the window if you go by the stats.
Okay. Also in the stage era, the most points a driver has entered the final round of 16 above the cut line and failed to advance was 14 points. And that was in 2019 at the Roval in Charlotte by Ryan Newman. So that's kind of interesting.
Now, this is kind of a back and forth thing, and Sharon and I were talking about this in between videos. At least one driver that was above the cut line entering the final round of 16, a race, failed to move on in each of the last 4 seasons. So does one get in and does one get bumped out?
Okay, now the current bubble is 11 points. That's the largest ever entering the final round of 16 points. The previous record was 7 points, again in 2023. So it's tight, but that was even tighter.
And we talked about that with the competitiveness. It is tough to make up single points, let alone 10 or up to 10, 11. So that makes sense. Now, the final bubble to advance has been 5 or less points in 6 of 8 seasons in this stage era. So, and that's where we talk about it. So you got to do it the whole race.
And Shane Van Gisbergen entered the playoffs at plus 16 to the cut line. If he does not advance, it would be the most points a driver has started above the cut line and failed to move on to the round of 12.
Well, and we knew that he was going to have to up his game, and we know he has been, but maybe not quite enough. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But what we are going to see play out, again, we got some clinch scenarios for Bristol Motor Speedway. This is playoff race number 3. 2 drivers have clinched a spot already in the 12-driver field that will advance to the next round. That's Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe getting wins. Now, to clinch via points, if there's a repeat winner, a win by a driver who cannot advance to the next round, drivers could clinch by being ahead of the 11th winless driver in the standings. Same would be true if a new win comes from Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, or Austin Cindric. So if that scenario plays out, Kyle Larson would clinch regardless of finish. Bubba Wallace, if it's not him, would need 7 points. Ryan Blaney would need 15 points. William Byron, 18. Tyler Reddick, 19. Christopher Bell would need 25. Chase Elliott, 29. Joey Logano, 36. Ross Chastain, 38. And then Austin Cindric, 46. Austin Dillon, Shane Van Gisbergen, Alex Bowman, and Josh Berry could clinch, but they would need some help. It would have to be very specific drivers. Now, if the new winner is from Austin Dillon or a winless driver low in the standings, but eligible to advance to the next round, then drivers would clinch by being ahead of the 10th winless driver in the standings. There, Kyle Larson would need 8 points, Bubba Wallace, 18, Blaney, 26, William Byron, 29, Tyler Reddick, 31, Christopher Bell, 36, Chase Elliott, 40, Joey Logano, 47, and Ross Chastain, 49. There you got Austin Cindric added to the list of drivers, and Austin Dillon, if it's not him, that would need some help, along with Shane Van Gisbergen, Alex Bowman, and Josh Berry. It could still do it mathematically, but they would need some help from a bad day from some other drivers, not just whoever got the victory. So
Yes.
With that, we'll slide over to the point standings. So again, Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe are your top 2 locked in to the next round. Then they're in the order you could see by how many points they would need in certain scenarios. Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, and Austin Cindric. Cindric is the cut line at this point at 2,054. Again, he has an 11-point lead over Austin Dillon, and then it's 16 points back to Shane Van Gisbergen. Another 20 to Bowman and Berry. I think Bowman and Berry pretty much got to put their eggs in the must-win situation. As we mentioned, mathematically, if they had help and the wind blew to the west, to the east, it might happen. But they really are in that must-win situation.
Yes.
For Austin Cindric, again, 11 points up, and he's only 8 points behind Ross Chastain, and then 2 more up to Joey Logano. Those two are in that marginal. They're fairly solid, but again, depending on who gets shuffled in and what kind of run Austin Cindric or Austin Dillon have, Ross Chastain and Joey Logano still kind of at risk.
And regardless of what happens for Shane Van Gisbergen, I do want to say he has secured the Rookie of the Year honors for the Cup Series.
Absolutely. He did, was the only rookie to advance into the round of 16. And I say, I know that's a discussion we've had both on Hot Topics and just out there in social media. Yeah, he's very good on road courses, dominant on road courses. He has improved on the oval tracks. And I don't think people are really giving him enough credit on that. Did most of the analysts expect him to make it through this round? It was questionable. And even the team knew that. I mean, they went with the strategy of, we got to get these stage points and whatnot because we know we may not finish there. We just don't have that strong a team yet. So they ran their strategy accordingly. And I think they did a great job with that. One of the races, and I'm trying to remember which one it was, but they pitted and had the caution fallen right, it would have gone in their favor. The caution came out and it kind of took that strategy away from them. They knew where they were at. They knew who they were as a team, and they adjusted accordingly. So you got to give them props for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. I think he is not being given credit for some of the progress that he has made this season. And I think next season he'll make even more progress.
I fully agree. So with that, I know, again, we got Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe. We know we're moving on. I think, Sharon, you and I and Chris kind of talked about it. At this point, I really do believe the 4 below the cut line are going to stay there. I heard a lot of talk about Austin Dillon and his ability at Bristol. But then reading, too, we heard Alex Bowman getting the last 2 poles. You got to finish it, though. You can't just start up there. You got to run up there and finish up there. And unfortunately, we just haven't seen that out of the 48 team of Hendrick Motorsports. I think the one really at jeopardy, whether it be by points or the win, is Austin Cindric. Again, a short track has not exactly been his forte, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I was going to say that. We might see a surprise winner at Bristol Motor Speedway. And if that's the case, there could be a driver that's above the cut line right now that may not be there when it's all said and done. So we'll see how it continues to play out. So anything more that you wanted to say before we move on, Jay?
No, just super looking forward to this race. As you mentioned, I said I kind of slipped my mind that it's a night race. I knew it, but I didn't think about it in that aspect. Night races at Bristol, having been to 1 or 2, there's nothing like it. I mean, that's all I can say. There is nothing like it.
All right. Well, do watch for more coming soon. We do have 2 of our previews out and published already. That would be the ARCA Menards and ARCA East combination race at Bristol. And that takes place tomorrow night, as well as the Truck Series race will be out on Thursday night. So don't forget to tune in to watch both of those races. And then on Friday, we've got the Xfinity Series night race, and that's going to be a fun one to watch. And on Saturday night, it's the NASCAR Cup Series Under the Lights on Saturday night for their round of 16 cutoff race. So all do not miss races. And then one other race that we've got to watch for is in the ARCA West. They're racing at All-American Speedway in Roseville. So a lot of racing going on this weekend, Jay.
A lot of good racing. And something you hit on there, I know I had put it up on Monday night. When it comes to the Xfinity, is Connor Zilic unbeatable? I think he's going to be very strong at the short track of Bristol, but I do think maybe his win streak and his dominance with wins may come to an end. You got Justin Allgaier. We know he's good at Bristol. Mentioned Sam Merritt's not in the Xfinity, but has several Bristol wins in other series. So, again, I think the top 5 finish streak may continue, but I think his win streak may be in jeopardy.
Yeah, you could be right, but it's not going to surprise me if it goes the other way too, and he wins, because he's been winning on tracks that he's never raced on before. So we'll see what happens.
He's winning races where he's not even in the car anymore, thanks to Parker Kligerman. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, though. You're right. You're right. I say short track is certainly a strength of his. We'll have to see if that continues, but I just do think that maybe this is a week where he does finish 3rd, 4th, or 5th.
All right, and you very well could be right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. We do enjoy doing this, and we hope you enjoy listening and tuning in as well. So, Jay, our next video will be our last, and that's for the ARCA West Series at All American Speedway. But we'll be not doing that tonight. We'll probably be doing that tomorrow night.
Looking forward to it, and I'll talk to you then. Thank you all for watching.